countries, let's say India or many African countries. I'm not sure about other African countries, but I can say about India and the South Asian countries that they don't even care about, and like communicating scientific evidences to them has no benefit, like if they don't care. So like how can we like put this?
Yeah, okay.
Make this.
The next one was the lady with a striped top. Yeah. Sorry, it's the only way I can identify by what you're wearing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Lee Winowicki. I'm a soil scientist from World Agroforestry, and I have two related points. And the first is I would like to bring the discussion around the framework that was presented that distinguished between who deserves accurate information. And I would like us to debate this, because I think as scientists we should be demanding that everyone deserves accurate and certain information, and including farmers and these discussions that could involve decision makers. And my second related point is on Table 8. I don't think Table 8 actually is listing data networks. They're in fact listing tools that are all reliant on accurate soil organic carbon data. And so I would like that table to also include data collection efforts such as ones that my own institute, ECRAF, as well as others that are really dedicated to collecting robust soil organic carbon and land health data. Thank you.
Okay, like there are two passionate requests from the floor down at the front, so let's take them since it looks like hot pursuit.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. A.K. Pandey from ICFRE, Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education. I don't agree what he has said. Our farmers are well aware about the things. They are very well educated. If you give them some package of practice which is really useful for them, they feel, no, this is benefiting them, financially at least, so they will do. We agree that our extension mechanism is really weak. So we have to strengthen our extension mechanism to disseminate our scientific knowledge to the farmers by using different ways, whatever is going to look like audio visuals and media and films and all. And slowly we are seeing there is a significant change in the farmer's perception, in the farmer's attitude. You go to some area where the farmers are doing wonders. So if we take our technology in a real spirit to the farmer, in my way, and which is really benefiting them, they will accept. There is no doubt about it. So this is my submission.
Okay, can you pass it to the lady to your left? Yeah, please.
I'm Dr. Ketna Matkar, and I'm an advisor and consultant working with the state government, and we advise on policy making. Basically, I'm also an academician, and I understand the point like communication of science to the common people. Until unless, as a stakeholder, what we want to communicate at a particular level, that scientific information, how it has to flow, there are two things which will be helping in enabling what we want as a scientist, that impact should be there. So one thing is information, education and communication, IEC. So whenever we make a thing like we want to communicate that information, whatever information is coming, that information has to be shared, awareness has to be created, and that cannot be common for all the stakeholders. For business community, the communication has to be in a different line. For the common people, the information has to be given in a different way. For the farmers, it has to be in a different way. So it gives us another clue that how we have to bring in the media into this. So the media definitely plays a part in that, but it is the communication at the personal level. You have to have a simplified way how you can correlate whatever scientific information has to be given in the local format. One example in the exhibition hall, which I can see, it is at the UNDP stall, and where what they are doing is that the whole poster is having 1 or 2 lines. So pictorially, only the information, the limited information is being given, and that limited information will raise the curiosity in the person to find out more, so that the retention of communication is there. So it's very important that in a simple way, the flow of information has to go. So the tool is that scientific information and the information communication. Now part 2. In spite of doing all these things, how we have to ensure that this will be followed. So we have to have a carrot and stick model. You have to give incentives, that's the carrot, incentives to different farmers. Incentives should be there in the form of policies, the bonds. World Bank has come up with the bonds for SDGs. So that's basically for conservation of water. So the industrialists, they are being promoted to come and have the venture. Similarly, Indian government is also working on providing the opportunity to the industrialists for combating desertification to come up and use the land areas which is not being converted. So this is a part of our plan and policy. So similar kind of thing, like the incentives are there to different...
Shorter.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And then similarly, you should have punishments or laws, and policies should be there. The bylaws at the level of state, like you said that you should have a central coordination of all the laws, but it can be splitted to the regional level. At the local level, it has to be in a different way, because the government will be working differently. That's it.
Okay, thanks very much. We are beginning to run out of time. What I'm going to do, I'll take one last intervention here, and then I'll run along the panel to get the reactions, and then I think that will take us to the lunch which we all deserve. Okay,
Namaste. My name is Chandra Vikash. I work on indigenous science and technology through my organization Gaia, which stands for Global Academy for Indigenous Activism. I'd like to visit the fundamentals. In Western perspective, soil is called dirt, and it's dirt cheap. What's really cheap is money. It takes zero cost to print trillions of dollars today, and that's where the imbalance. We need to convert brownfields to greenfields. The problem is not out there. It's right where we are. Can we follow the dictum of bloom where we are planted? We tend to visit, helicopters and, drones now. But that's not where the problem is. Where I stay right here, 20 kilometers away, I can't plant 50 native trees because all the land has been encroached by the development authority. The local community has no locus standi on what to do with the land use. We have global social media, which functions far better than United Nations. I'm sorry to say that we all work very hard. But can we just make it free and fair rather than being third-party controlled so that the data cannot be sold to Cambridge Analytics? Yeah, so my question fundamentally is, can we just focus on localized abundance, which nature gives us in bountiful everywhere, and where we are not supposed to live? Like every animal knows what its habitat is, except humans. Why do we live in areas where we need round-the-clock air conditioning, where we need day lighting, daytime's neon lights? So I think we need to revisit our assumptions and focus on a presentation that I've shared with UNCCD as well as my ministry. It's called Localized Abundance and Circular Economy.
Yeah.
And very briefly, the proposal is that can we start calling concrete jungles as concrete graveyards? Can we start converting brownfields to greenfields by moving out the car of the neighborhood, which frees up 50 square meter for every car because there are multiple parking and paved surface? So can we start unpaving? Can we start revisiting the ecumenopolis by calling them as Petropolis or Monstropolis?
Yeah. Can you bring your remarks to an end very quickly, because we are beginning
so very
to run
quickly,
out of time.
we need to do away with the economics of negative externalities and just let nature as it is. Forget about the droughts in remote areas. Just wherever we can cycle up to.
Yeah.
Can we just look at 20 kilometers from wherever we stay, where we can walk up to, where we can cycle up to, and start planting trees, start rainwater harvesting, every drop of rain, so that evaporative losses or mixing up with sewage doesn't happen. So that's
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we have a limited amount of time, so I'm just going to run along the panel and get them to give the reactions to all of the things that we've heard. Be as selective as you want in answering, but I do think communication and stakeholder engagement has been a strong theme of all the comments that we've heard. Maybe we can start with you, Mark.
Well, a lot of these obviously weren't directly tied to drought, but the one overarching thing I will mention is the Drought Mitigation Center, of which I'm the director at the University of Nebraska, is I would say a boundary organization. So we're very much in tune with many of the concerns raised in dealing with our constituents, translating science to policy, translating science to media, translating science to the public. These are all different audiences, and many of the information that we produce is tailored to those different audiences. And I'll just leave that as my remark.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Mariana.
Thank you very much. I would strongly agree with the statements of students and the lady in yellow. That was exactly my discussion a few days ago here. We cannot use the same language for each group of stakeholders. We need to bring them on the board. We need them as active stakeholder. But how can they be active if they don't understand how science can help them? But if they understand that any proposal that is coming from us can help them to support their family, they will become active. Otherwise, we have to get some kind of incentives for them. If they don't understand, they will still be stakeholders, but they won't be active on the ground. So the key is maybe that scientific language that has to be translated for the different groups of stakeholders, because land degradation starts on the local level, not on the global. Okay. That would be my final remark. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mariana. Nicole?
I would just like to wrap up and say that we have two comments from here and one from over here that were very similar, and I would suggest that as we go into lunch, think about having lunch together and start thinking about how we communicate and across these ideas, because I think they were powerful statements.
Yeah, Eleanor.
So I wanted to make two remarks. One going back to a comment about storytelling, which Nicole spoke about a little bit as well. And what really resonated with me is I did also receive a fair amount of training when I was in graduate school for media discussions and interdisciplinary research, so learning how to speak across different disciplines and that kind of thing. But once beyond graduate school, from purely an academic standpoint, the support for continuing development of that kind of crossing of language, of storytelling, is limited. And so, having better incentives would be a really great thing from the scientific standpoint, from the academic world, but also really emphasizing that development during sort of the years before reaching that stage of the career, I think could be really valuable, as well as coordinating with outside media institutions to help facilitate that process. I also wanted to respond to the comments about the framework and about Table 8. I could not agree with you more that everyone deserves the most accurate possible data, and that is a huge priority. But you'll notice that the entry point into that into specifically that decision tree is the level of certainty required to make a decision about SLM deployment, which is basically starting from the standpoint that in many places in the world, the amount of data that's available can be quite limited. And so what do? Do you wait to do a deployment of SLM until you have the data? Perhaps that is something that needs to happen, maybe investment in gathering high quality data to support this. It's an absolute vital priority, but from the practical standpoint, that your resources to do so are going to be limited. And so the idea behind the decision trees is to say, okay, many places are starting with limited resources. What will help get decisions going? And then where does that reveal where key targets are for building and investing, sort of the targeting your best investments to increase your soil data quality and availability. So I agree with you completely, and ideally achieving this will result in vastly improved data resources all over the world. That is the vision that trying to realize with this guidance and this framework. So thank you for that. And specifically Table 8. You know, one of the interesting things, and I apologize for going on a little bit, about the sort of the field of tools to help you with soil carbon assessment is how fast they're moving forward. And so those tools were mentioned as having within them the ability, without any outside information, just default data, to be used anywhere in the world. That does not mean that it provides you the level of accuracy you need to make a decision. And so Table 8 is really providing overall guidance, but it is really going to depend on the data resources you have. And really, to support this, we need tools that allow you to put in high-quality soil carbon data. And for example, the Carbon Benefits Project tool is one that supports that capacity and really can get into detail about the data sets that it uses. But it's a big expanding field, which is why the framework itself is not around those specific tools that exist now, but how you build overall capacity. So thank you very much for your comments. And I would love to talk with you more later.
And Ermias, just to finish the panel, please.
Thank you very much. And then I think as a science day, I think it is exciting for science and research, I would say. There is a huge demand from science and for policymakers, for instance, in the scope that I have learned, and then also from development. I think we need to continue to be independent as much as possible and then give very interesting evidence. And then let's say that let's really generate evidence. Let's have good investment to it. Let's also engage with our stakeholders, as we said. And then also let's outreach the way, because every country, every situation is different, and then we need to really understand that one. So I think with that, I wish everybody to have a land degradation neutral world in the future very soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ermias. Now, just to say, I very much enjoyed sitting here trying to facilitate this session. Can I just say two things from an IPCC perspective? One is in the people part of the conversation, how much it echoes the kind of conversations we have in IPCC as well. And many of the issues that people have raised about land management also in the people sense could apply to the management of urban systems as well. My colleague Deborah Roberts from Working Group 2 in her day job is an urban planner in Durban in South Africa, would completely echo the messages that have been coming off from the lady in the yellow. Definitely, Deborah would be at one with you on these kind of points. And I think the second thing is about communication and how important it is. But it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not a cheap thing to do. You need to put the time and the resources in to do it properly. And the other thing is to plan in the communication from the beginning so that you just don't think at the moment, oh, I must remember to put out the press release. That is just not good enough. So I think for SPI, I think you've achieved an enormous amount. I think you have a lot that you still need to achieve, especially around the I bit of SPI. That interface bit of it is absolutely critical. So I wish you all the best of luck with your endeavors in the future. And can we thank all the panelists for the excellent contributions they've made. Now, there is lunch, but I won't say anything about it because I'll probably make false promises. So, Mariam.
Thank you, Jim, for handing over. So we are running a bit behind time. The presentations were excellent. It really made fun to listen. We have lunch outside, and we know that the Executive Secretary of the UNCCD will be arriving. So the problem is lunch will get cold, so we ask you to quickly grab something and be back in the room in 15 minutes. The Executive Secretary will be here at 1:15.